Hello and welcome to today's Astranti bite-sized video. And as you can see from the screen in front of you, today's topic is the need for governance. And of course, what we'll be looking at in today's video is the need for organizations to have good governance and different areas, approaches to good governance, including the rules-based and the principles-based approach. Now, I can't stress how important this topic is for all of you students studying for your CIMA exams, because not only will you find it at the operational level and the management level and the strategic level, but you will also need to know it for pretty much all of your case study exams, because CIMA hold ethics and governance in really high regard. So I can't stress how important this short video may prove to be for your future exam success. So enjoy. Now, in recent years, since the collapse of a number of large corporations such as Enron, there has been significant interest in the corporate governance practices of modern corporations, especially in relation to accountability. Now, in the UK, the Cadbury report was produced in '92 after the collapse of BCCI, the Mirror Group and Polypec, whilst in the US, there was increasing focus from 2001 after scandals including Enron and WorldCom. Their demise was quickly followed by the US government passing the Sarbanes-Oxley Act in 2002, which imposed strict governance standards in US companies. So we have a number of instances where companies have been found to be misleading shareholders, fixing the books, and lots of generally fraudulent and dishonest behaviour. And the response to this has been a number of acts and laws being passed by global governments to prevent these things from happening again. So let's take a look at these key acts and laws to see what they're all about, and we're going to be doing that in the principles section. So in this section, we're going to be looking at the key principles that form the basis of these acts that have been passed in response to these high-profile collapses. Now, these are the foundations of corporate governance and are designed to make the business world more responsible and accountable. Now, the core principles to which most contemporary discussions of corporate governance tend to refer were raised in three documents, two of which we've already mentioned. And they are the Cadbury Report in 1992, Principles of Corporate Governance in 1998 and the revised in 2004, and the Sarbanes-Oxley Act in the US in 2002. Now, the Cadbury and the OECD reports present general principles around which businesses are expected to operate. They're not compulsory, they're not legislated, and as such are just known as principle-based approaches to governance. Now, in the UK, a code has taken the place of the Cadbury report, and what we have now is the UK Code of Corporate Governance, which is updated at regular intervals and is relevant to UK companies listed on the stock market. Now, it is largely based on the same principles as the Cadbury report, but it's also worth noting that we will only be concerned with this new UK code. This new UK code is also a principle-based approach. It's not legislated. It's not compulsory. Now, the Sarbanes-Oxley Act, informally referred to as Sarbox or SOX, is an attempt by the federal government in the United States to legislate several of the principles recommended in the Cadbury and the OECD reports. Now, in governance terms, SOX is known as a rules-based approach, as it is legislated and sets out in significant amounts of detail exactly what must and must not be done. Now, we're going to look at these latter two documents in more detail later on in the video. Now, before we move on to the generic principles on which these documents are based, what we're going to look at first is the advantages and disadvantages of rule-based and principle-based approaches. And we're going to begin with rules-based. So let's have a look for the arguments for rules-based as opposed to principles-based. So firstly, the advantages of rules-based is confidence. Now, these are confidence for the stakeholders because they now know that everything is being done properly. It has to be being done properly because that's the law. It also offers clarity because there are clear and specific rules, and that means that organizations or businesses can't misinterpret what's laid down. It's not just some kind of principles which they can interpret, there are specific rules they have to follow. Complicity is another advantage of rules-based approach over the principle-based approach because, again, similar to clarity, there's no room to interpret the rules as best fits the organization or entity. Instead, everyone has to follow the rules and follow it accurately. And then our final advantage of rules-based approach is standardization, because all companies have to abide by the same rules. This makes it the approach and the industry standard. Okay, so there's our 4 advantages or arguments for rules-based approach over the principles-based approach. So let's have a look at the argument against the rules-based approach. And so if we're arguing against the rules-based approach, this is for or pro the principles-based approach. And firstly, the rules-based approach isn't very flexible. A set of rules is a rigid approach and may not be the best approach for entities of different sizes in different industries that want to achieve different things, whereas the principles-based approach allows for that flexibility. The next negative of the rules-based approach is box ticking, because the rules-based approach encourages just a process of filling a checklist in and box ticking rather than thinking about the right thing to do in individual scenarios like the principles-based approach encourages business to do. Then we've got bureaucracy. The rules and regulations and legislation simply add to the list of things that must be done by an organization just to operate. Another problem with the rules-based approach is the cost, because there's lots of costs incurred in developing and enforcing legislation, and also not just financial costs but time costs. Then we've got exploitation, because there is scope for entities to exploit legal loopholes in the rules to their advantage. And the final argument against the rules-based approach is cynicism. Rule following doesn't require any organization to buy into what they're having to do. So many organizations are simply doing it because they have to, rather than they believe in that approach. So there we go, everything that you need to know about the rules-based and the principle-based approaches in around 7 minutes. And if you want more videos like this, then be sure to like and subscribe to our channel. And if you want more revision help, such as study text or video or practice questions, then be sure to check out our full courses on our Astranti website. So thank you so much for watching today, and good luck with your exams.